I created an AI podcast based on Reddit threads involving penny stocks. So what I did was, I went to Google Notebook LM, and you can click on Try Notebook LM, then Create New. From there, just click on Website, and you can just paste the URL of a Reddit thread or whatever you want, really. And today we're looking at penny stocks. So I just went ahead and picked some of the penny stocks that I thought were mentioned a lot on this thread lately. And I picked some posts that had a lot of information in them about one of the stocks, or maybe a lot of comments on the post. So just continue adding your sources. And when you're all done, click on Generate, and you'll get a podcast discussion created by AI of whatever sources you put in. So I hope you enjoy this video as AI podcasters discuss the Reddit penny stock thread. And one of them even suggests which one it would buy towards the end. Now, disclaimer, this is not investment advice, and please do your own research before investing in any stock.
All right, so get ready, because we're diving deep today into the world of penny stocks.
Ooh.
Specifically, the buzz, the excitement around OAD, OPTT, CTM, KULR, MVST, and RVSN.
Yeah.
So imagine you're sifting through, I don't know, like a Reddit thread, news snippets, stock charts, and you're trying to figure out, like, okay, which of these companies is actually worth paying attention to?
Absolutely.
That is exactly what we are doing today.
Right.
Separating the hype from the substance.
And it's a jungle out there.
Right.
Especially with penny stocks. I mean, there's so much speculation.
Oh, yeah.
Emotion driving these conversations.
Absolutely.
You know, we really have to kind of be extra careful.
Yeah.
To focus on the facts.
Yeah. And I think that's what we try to do here, is really look at it from that, more objective lens.
Absolutely.
Okay. So first up, we have OOD.
Okay.
Now, full disclosure, I was like immediately drawn in because they have this connection to the historic Comstock LODE silver discovery.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
interesting.
Okay, so are they trying to like tap into that gold rush energy?
Yeah.
But this time, it's all about renewable resources.
Yeah, they've definitely made a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
You know, growing from traditional mining to this focus on sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF.
Yeah.
Essentially taking those underutilized resources and turning them into, fuel for airplanes.
Oh, wow.
And they're even involved in these renewable refinery projects.
Cool.
I mean, it's pretty ambitious, especially given the growing demand for cleaner aviation fuels.
Yeah, and that's what's generating so much buzz online.
Exactly.
You have people who are like, LODE is a hidden gem, like it's going to skyrocket.
Right.
And then you have others who are like, this is just another meme stock. It's all hype, no substance. So it's kind of fascinating how divided people are.
Well, and remember, they've been using these convertible promissory notes to fund this expansion.
Right.
Which has raised some eyebrows.
Oh.
Essentially, they're issuing debt that can be converted into stock later on.
Oh, okay.
This can be a really smart way to raise capital quickly, but it also carries the risk of dilution.
Dilution. Okay, can you break that down for me?
Sure.
And for anyone listening who might not be familiar with that term?
Of course. So dilution basically means that the value of existing shares can decrease if the company issues a bunch of new shares.
Right.
So in LODE's case, if a lot of those promissory notes get converted into stock, it could impact the value of the shares that people already own.
Got it.
It's a trade-off. You get fast growth, but you also risk diluting the value for early investors.
I see.
You know, that's a crucial thing to consider when you're looking at LODE's long-term prospect.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, there's this whole other layer with their acquisition of GenMat, which is an AI company focused on material discovery. It seems like they're trying to position themselves at the forefront of clean energy innovation.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about GenMat is their use of quantum-ready AI. Okay. Now, this might sound a bit complicated, but essentially they're using these advanced algorithms to discover new materials that could be used in clean energy technologies.
Right.
You know, if this technology delivers on its promise, old EE could have a significant advantage in developing next-generation batteries, solar panels, who knows what else.
Wow.
It's a long shot, for sure.
Yeah.
But the potential payoff could be huge.
Huge.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to OPTT.
Okay.
Ocean Power Technologies.
Yeah.
A company that's all about harnessing the power of waves to generate energy.
Very cool.
Now, I haven't seen a lot of chatter about their stock price swinging wildly, kind of like a roller coaster. Yeah. What's going on there?
Well, you have to remember, OPTT is transitioning from research and development into securing actual commercial contracts.
Right.
They're moving from the proving it works stage to the making money stage.
Yeah.
And that transition isn't always smooth.
Yeah, I saw some comments online about people buying OPTT stock at the peak.
Oh.
And then watching it plummet. And I think we've all been there at some point, right? Like that feeling of, why didn't I sell yesterday?
Exactly, exactly. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster, especially with penny stocks.
Right.
But here's the thing, you know, short-term price fluctuations don't tell the whole story.
Right.
What really matters is whether the company is making progress, securing contracts, and positioning itself for long-term success.
Okay.
Those are the fundamentals you want to focus on.
Yeah. And speaking of positioning, their partnership with Red Cat, or RCT, is getting a lot of attention. Red Cat is involved in the drone market.
Right.
And it seems like this collaboration could open some interesting doors for OPTT.
Absolutely.
But can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Red Cat specializes in these drones for military and commercial use. And they're seeing a lot of growth in that market.
Yeah.
Now, imagine OPTT's wave energy technology being used to power these offshore drone operations.
Oh, wow.
So suddenly you have drones that can stay out at sea for much longer periods, collecting data, conducting surveillance, all sorts of applications.
Cool.
This partnership could give them a significant edge in this rapidly growing market.
Right. So they're providing the power
for
these drones to stay out longer.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Okay, now let's shift gears to CTM or Castellum.
Okay.
What caught my eye with this company is the amount of insider buying that's been happening.
Right.
It makes you wonder, like, what do they know?
Right. That we don't.
Insider buying is definitely a signal worth paying attention to.
Right.
When people who are deeply involved in a company are buying up stock, it suggests they have confidence in its future.
Exactly. And CTM has this really solid business model.
Yeah.
They're focused on government contracts in areas like cybersecurity, electronic warfare, and software engineering. They're not flashy or trendy.
Right.
But they seem to be quietly building a strong foundation.
Right. But there's a big what if to consider here. What happens if government spending cuts come into play?
Right.
You know, CTM's revenue is heavily reliant on those government contracts.
Right.
So you have to think about the bigger picture, the political climate, potential shifts in priorities, all of that can have a ripple effect on a company like CTM.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that even when a company seems stable, there are always external factors that can come into play.
Absolutely.
Which are often beyond the company's control.
Right. And that brings us to KULR. Okay.
A company that's definitely not afraid to take risks.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So they're known for their work in battery and thermal management.
Right.
But what's really got people talking is their decision to invest heavily in Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Bold move.
That's a bold move. Some people are calling it genius. Others are saying it's reckless.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What are we seeing in the discussions online?
Well, KULR has essentially created a Bitcoin treasury.
Okay.
Meaning they're holding a significant amount of Bitcoin as an asset. The idea is that if Bitcoin continues to rise in value, it could amplify their returns.
Okay.
But of course, there's also the risk that Bitcoin could crash.
Right.
Which would hurt their bottom line.
Right. Yeah, the Reddit threads are full of people debating this.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Some are praising KULR for being forward-thinking and capitalizing on, you know, the potential of cryptocurrency. Others are worried that they're getting caught up in the hype. Right.
And neglecting their core business.
Yeah.
And I can see both sides, honestly.
It's important to remember that KULR's core business in thermal management is actually quite strong. They're working with major players like NASA and electric vehicle manufacturers.
Wow.
So the Bitcoin investment, while significant, shouldn't overshadow their expertise in this critical technology.
Right.
I mean, they're really good at what they do.
Okay, so it's like they're walking a tightrope.
Right.
Balancing your core business with this high-risk, high-reward Bitcoin play.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see which strategy ultimately proves more successful.
Absolutely.
In the long run.
Yeah.
Now, MVST, or Microvast, has been a bit quieter in the discussions online.
Right.
But they're operating in a space that's absolutely exploding.
For sure.
Electric vehicle battery technology.
Huge market.
It's a crowded market.
It is.
What makes MVST stand out?
Well, the key for MVST is to prove
Okay.
that their technology can compete with the big players. They need to demonstrate that their batteries are either superior in terms of performance, range, lifespan, or that they can produce them more cost effectively.
Right.
They need that something special to carve out their niche in this competitive landscape.
Yeah, and it's interesting to contrast them with KULR. Both are working with battery technology.
Right.
But they're taking very different approaches.
Absolutely.
You know, KULR is making this big splash with Bitcoin.
Right.
While MVST is more focused on quietly building their core business.
Exactly. And it just highlights the diversity of approaches you see in the penny stock world.
Right.
Some companies are all about making these bold bets, while others are more focused on this steady, incremental growth. It's fascinating.
Okay, and last but not least, we have RVSN, Rail Vision, a company using AI to make railways safer.
Right.
But they're facing a pretty serious challenge right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're facing this NASDAQ Q delisting deadline, meaning they need to get their share price above a certain threshold to remain listed on the exchange.
Wow.
It's a high-pressure situation.
Yeah.
And it's creating a lot of urgency.
For sure.
For the company.
But there's also a lot of optimism surrounding RVSN, especially on Reddit.
Right.
People are excited about their recent contracts, their partnerships, and the overall growth they're seeing. It seems like they're pulling out all the stops to meet that deadline.
It's definitely a make or break situation for RVSN.
Yeah.
They've been making some strategic moves, but there are still risks involved.
Okay.
For example, they've entered into this standby equity purchase agreement with Yorkville Advisors Global, which could lead to significant dilution if they need to raise capital quickly.
Right. So they're walking this tightrope of trying to raise the capital they need to stay afloat without diluting the value for existing shareholders.
It's a tough balancing act. We'll have to see how it all plays out.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've got companies pivoting to renewable energy, making bold bets on Bitcoin, racing against the clock to stay listed.
Yeah.
That's a wild ride, that's for sure.
It is. It's definitely an adventure.
It is.
Out there.
Absolutely. And I think for anyone listening who's new to the world of penny stocks, this is a great example of why it's so important to do your research.
Absolutely.
And really understand the forces at play.
You got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about picking a company and hoping for the best.
No.
It's about understanding the fundamentals, the risks, the potential rewards.
Totally.
And honestly, I find it really helps to tap into those online discussions, you know, to see what other people are saying, what their concerns are, what they're excited about.
Yeah.
It's like crowdsourcing your research, but with a healthy dose of skepticism, of course.
Of course. Always a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right. You can't believe everything you read online.
No, absolutely not.
But even the most, like, outlandish claims sometimes lead you down a rabbit hole.
You're right.
That uncovers something really interesting, some factor connection you wouldn't have found otherwise.
You're so right.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So, okay, now I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
That emotional roller coaster that comes with penny stock investing.
For sure.
One day a stock is soaring.
Right.
Next day it's plummeting.
Yep.
How do you advise people to deal with that kind of volatility?
That's the million-dollar question.
It seems like it'd be hard not to make decisions based on fear or greed.
You're absolutely right. Emotions can be a huge obstacle
to
making sound investment decisions.
Yeah.
When you let fear or greed take the wheel, you're more likely to make impulsive choices that you'll later regret.
Right.
The key is to have a solid investment strategy in place and stick to it.
Okay, so what does a solid investment strategy look like in the world of penny stocks?
Well, first and foremost,
Yeah.
you need to define your risk tolerance.
Okay.
How much are you comfortable losing?
Right.
What are your financial goals?
Yeah.
Once you have a clear understanding of that,
Yeah.
you can start doing your due diligence.
Due diligence, meaning?
Meaning, you know, really digging into the companies, you know, reading their financial statements, researching their management team, understanding their competitive landscape.
Right.
And yes, definitely taking a look at those online discussions to get a sense of investor sentiment.
Okay.
But remember, don't let those discussions dictate your decisions.
It's more about getting a feel.
Right.
For the overall narrative, the hopes and fears surrounding a particular company.
Right.
And then ultimately, you know, making your own judgment.
Right.
Based on the facts.
Absolutely.
Right.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay. So, and perhaps the most important piece of advice I think I've heard you say about penny stocks is don't invest money that you can't afford to lose.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Treat it like you're playing poker. Only bet what you're willing to see disappear from the table.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
So with those words of caution in mind, let's dive back into our lineup of penny stocks.
Okay.
And see what other nuggets of wisdom we can extract from all this online chatter.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Let's go back to LODE.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me in those Reddit discussions was the excitement around their focus on sustainable aviation fuel.
Yeah.
Or SAF.
Right.
I mean, with the pressure on the airline industry to reduce its carbon footprint.
Absolutely.
SAF seems like it's poised for huge growth.
It's definitely a market with massive potential.
Right.
And LODE is positioning itself as a key player in that space. You know, leveraging their expertise in resource extraction and their new AI capabilities to develop these innovative SAF solutions.
I see. But I also noticed some concerns about LODE being a bit of a one-trick pony, with SAF being their primary focus.
Right.
Some people were worried about the lack of diversification in their business model.
That's a valid point.
Right.
You know, relying too heavily on a single market can be risky, especially in a volatile industry like energy.
Right.
However, LODE's acquisition of GenMat could help mitigate that risk.
Sure.
If their quantum-ready AI technology proves successful, it could open doors to new materials and technologies beyond SAF, giving them a wider range of options.
Right, so they're hedging their bets a bit.
Exactly.
Trying to capture a big chunk of the SAF market. While also exploring other avenues for growth.
Right. It's a smart strategy.
Yeah.
Especially for a company in the penny stock space. They need to demonstrate both growth potential and a degree of diversification to attract and retain investors.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of diversification, let's shift gears to OPTT.
Okay.
Which seems to be taking a more multi-pronged approach.
Yes, OPTT's strategy is interesting.
Yeah.
They're not just focused on wave energy technology.
Right.
They're also exploring opportunities in related fields.
Okay.
Like drone deployment and data collection. You know, they're essentially building an ecosystem around their core technology.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, and that partnership with Red Cat seems to be a key part of that strategy.
Absolutely.
Giving them a foothold in the growing drone market.
It's a shrewd move.
Yeah.
You know, leveraging partnerships to expand their reach.
Right.
And explore new applications for their technology. This collaboration allows them to tap into Red Cat's expertise in drone technology.
Right.
And their existing customer base.
Right.
I mean, it's a win-win situation.
It is. But there's also been a lot of discussion about OPTT's history of share dilution, which you explained earlier.
Right.
Some people online are pointing out that the company has a tendency to issue new shares, which can dilute the value of existing shares.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that? Is it a red flag?
Share dilution is a complex issue, and it's not always a bad thing.
Okay.
On the one hand, it allows companies to raise capital quickly, which can be essential for growth, especially for smaller companies. On the other hand, it can erode shareholder value if the company isn't using that capital effectively.
Right. So it's not just about the dilution itself.
Exactly.
It's about what the company's doing with that diluted capital.
You got it.
Are they investing it wisely?
That's the question.
Are they generating returns that justify the dilution?
Exactly. Investors need to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What's the company's track record?
Right.
Are they making progress toward their goals? Is the dilution part of a strategic plan for growth?
Right.
Or is it a sign that they're struggling to stay afloat?
It's like a puzzle.
It is.
You have to put all the pieces together.
You got to connect the dots.
To see the whole picture.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those online discussions can help you find those missing pieces.
You're right.
You can see what other investors are thinking, what their concerns are.
Yeah.
And whether they believe the company's on the right track.
I like it.
Okay, let's move on to CTM.
Okay.
This company has a lot of fans in the online communities. Mm-hmm. And they're drawn to their strong focus on government contracts.
Right.
And their potential for steady growth. Mm-hmm. Seems like a pretty safe bet, right?
CTM's appeal definitely lies in its perceived stability.
Right.
You know, government contracts, especially in areas like cybersecurity and defense, tend to be long-term and relatively predictable.
Yeah.
Which can be very attractive to investors who are looking for a less volatile option.
Right. However,
there's always a however, isn't there?
Right. As we discussed earlier, government spending is not set in stone.
Right.
There's always the risk of budget cuts.
Yeah.
Especially with a new administration coming in.
Right.
And it's not just about overall spending cuts. Right. It's about potential shifts in priorities.
Oh, okay.
What if the new administration decides to focus on different areas of defense or cybersecurity?
Right.
That could have a significant impact on CTM's revenue stream.
It's a reminder that even when a company seems like a safe bet, there are always those external factors that can come into play.
Absolutely.
That are often beyond the company's control.
Right, and that brings us back to the importance of diversification.
You never want to put all your eggs in one basket, especially when you're dealing with penny stocks. Yeah. Spreading your investments across different companies, different industries, can help mitigate that risk.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about KULR.
Okay.
Their Bitcoin investment.
Yeah.
Definitely the most talked about aspect
For sure.
of their story right now. Mm-hmm. What are people saying online?
Yeah.
Are they convinced that this is a brilliant move?
Well, the online community is pretty divided on this one.
Okay.
Some see it as a visionary move.
Okay.
A way for KULR to leverage the potential upside of cryptocurrency and position themselves as a leader in the blockchain space.
Right.
You know, they believe it shows that KULR is forward-thinking and willing to embrace new technologies. And then
the other side of the argument.
Others are more skeptical.
Oh.
They see it as a gamble, a distraction from KULR's core business.
Right.
They're worried that the company is chasing hype and neglecting its expertise in thermal management, which, as we've discussed, is a really solid and growing market.
Right.
So
it seems like a classic case of high risk, high reward.
It is.
If Bitcoin takes off,
right,
KULR can see massive returns.
Absolutely.
But if it crashes,
it
could hurt their bottom line.
Yep.
And damage investor confidence.
You got it.
A bold move.
Bold move, yeah.
That's for sure.
So
it highlights the different approaches companies take to managing risk.
Absolutely.
And seeking growth.
Right.
Some companies are risk averse.
Right.
Others are more willing to roll the dice.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
It's all about what aligns with your own investment philosophy and risk tolerance.
I like that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now let's turn our attention to MVST.
Okay.
Which is facing some stiff competition.
Yeah.
In the electric vehicle battery market.
It is an incredibly competitive market right now with these major players vying for dominance.
Right.
For a smaller company like MVST to succeed, they need to demonstrate that their technology is superior or more cost-effective than the competition.
Right.
They need to convince investors that they have a unique edge that justifies their valuation.
So what are some of the things they're doing to try to stand out?
Well, they're focusing on developing these next-generation battery technologies that offer higher energy density, faster charging times, and longer lifespans.
Gotcha.
They're also working on building these strategic partnerships with key players in the automotive industry to secure supply agreements and gain access to valuable resources.
So it's like they're trying to prove that they can play in the big leagues.
They are.
Even though they're relatively small player.
Right, exactly.
It'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off.
It will. The EV market is evolving rapidly.
Yeah.
Right. And there's definitely room for innovation and disruption.
For sure.
But MVST needs to execute flawlessly.
Right.
And convince investors that they're in it for the long haul.
Okay. And last but not least, we have RVSN.
Okay.
Which is in a race against time to avoid delisting from the NASDAQ.
Yeah. Big challenge.
What are people saying about their chances of survival?
The online community is definitely rooting for RVSN.
Okay.
They see the company's AI-powered rail safety technology as having this huge potential to prevent accidents and improve efficiency in the railway industry.
Interesting.
And they're impressed with RVSN's recent progress in securing new contracts and expanding into new markets.
Okay. But there's still a lot of uncertainty, right?
There is.
That delisting deadline is looming large.
It is, and even if they manage to meet the deadline, they still have a lot of work to do to prove that they can be a sustainable and profitable business. The standby equity purchase agreement with Yorkville Advisors Global is a necessary move to raise capital quickly. But it also comes with the risk of significant dilution.
Right.
Investors need to weigh the potential upside of a turnaround against the very real risk of seeing their shares lose value.
It's a high-stakes game, that's for sure.
It is.
But that's part of what makes penny stocks so fascinating.
Right.
The potential for big wins and big losses.
Absolutely.
It creates a lot of drama and excitement.
You're right. And it's important to remember that investing in penny stocks is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It requires a certain level of risk tolerance and a willingness to ride out the ups and downs.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have.
Exploring the stories behind these 6 penny stocks.
Yeah.
Looking at their potential, their challenges, and the online chatter surrounding them.
Absolutely. It's been a journey.
It's clear that there's no shortage of opinions, predictions, and emotions swirling around these companies.
Oh, for sure. That's the nature of the game.
It really is a whirlwind.
It is.
Of information and speculation.
Yeah.
But as we've been saying all along, it's crucial to filter out the noise.
Right.
And focus on what really matters.
Absolutely.
The fundamentals, the risks, and the long-term potential.
I couldn't agree more.
Penny stocks could be incredibly tempting.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you see those eye-popping gains that some people are making.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in that.
But you have to remember.
Yeah.
Those gains often come with a high level of risk.
You got it.
Right. It's not just about picking the next big winner.
No.
It's about managing that risk.
Right.
And making sure you're not putting yourself in a precarious financial position.
Couldn't agree more.
So as we wrap up our deep dive
Yeah.
into these 6 penny stocks, LODE, OPTT, CTM, KULR, MVST, and RVSN, what are the key takeaways you want listeners to remember?
Well, first and foremost, knowledge is power.
Okay.
The more you know about a company, its industry, its management team, its financial health, the better equipped you'll be to make informed investment decisions.
I like that. And that knowledge comes from a variety of sources, right?
It does.
Not just from reading company reports and news articles,
right,
but also from exploring those online discussions.
Absolutely.
Getting a feel for investor sentiment.
Yeah.
Maybe even spotting some red flags that you might have missed otherwise.
Exactly. You know, it's like being a detective, gathering clues from multiple sources to build a complete picture.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And don't forget, investing isn't just about picking winners.
No.
It's about managing risk.
Right.
Penny stocks are inherently risky.
They are.
But that risk can be mitigated with thorough research.
Absolutely.
A well-defined investment strategy, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes.
That's key.
It's a constant learning process.
It is.
That's for sure, but that's part of what makes it so interesting, right?
You got it.
You're constantly learning about new companies, new technologies, new trends.
Absolutely. The world of penny stocks is never dull.
Never a dull moment.
It's full of surprises, opportunities, and challenges.
All right, so now for the question we've all been waiting for.
Oh, here we go.
If you had to choose just one of these 6 companies to invest in right now,
okay,
which one would it be and why?
That is a tough one.
It is a tough one.
They each have their own unique strengths and weaknesses.
But if you had to pick just one...
You're really putting me on the spot here.
I know.
Okay, if I had to choose just one right now,
okay,
I'd probably go with LODE.
Okay.
Their focus on sustainable aviation fuel is incredibly timely. And I think their acquisition of GenMat, that AI company we talked about, could give them a real competitive edge.
Okay.
It's a risky bet for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the potential rewards are worth it.
Okay.
But remember, this is just my opinion.
Of course.
And it's based on the information we have right now.
Right.
Things could change quickly in the world of penny stocks.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect note to end on. The world of penny stocks is constantly evolving.
It is.
What looks like a sure thing today could be a disaster tomorrow.
You never know.
That's why it's so important to stay informed, stay curious, and never stop learning.
Well said. And remember, the future is full of possibilities.
So true.
Stay open to new ideas, new technologies, new ways of thinking about the world.
I love that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed the ride and learned a thing or two along the way.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy investing.
It is, yeah.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
But that's why we do these deep dives, right?
Absolutely.
Break it down, make it digestible.
The goal.
So, if you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking about dipping your toes into the world of penny stocks,
right?
Just remember, do your research.
Absolutely.
Don't get swept up in the hype.
Right. Don't let those emotions take over.
Exactly. Because it's easy to get caught up in.
Oh, so easy.
The excitement.
You see those big numbers and you think, I've got to get in on this.
Right. It's like FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Exactly. But you have to remember, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right. It's about being informed and making calculated decisions.
You got it.
So, if you're looking for a surefire way to make a quick buck,
yeah,
penny stocks are probably not the answer.
Probably not the best bet, yeah.
But if you're willing to put in the time, do the research, understand the risks,
right,
and be patient.
Absolutely. Patience is key.
Penny stocks can offer some really exciting opportunities.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the potential upside is huge.
Yeah, you could find the next big thing.
Exactly. That's what makes it so exciting.
It's like panning for gold. You have to sift through a lot of dirt.
Yeah, a lot of dirt.
To find those little nuggets.
Well, when you find them, it's worth it.
It is. So keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Absolutely. It's a journey. Enjoy the ride.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy investing.